In the Asian region, the only way to get somewhere with human rights is the effort of people themselves standing up for the rights of others. This is because the states have almost a complete policy of impunity. The systems are not in place to protect any of the rights, whether it is the right against detention, which is a very serious problem in many parts of Asia, illegal arrest, the various forms of extrajudicial killings such as enforced disappearances, and the other forms of encounter killings and by various names. And then in places like Philippines, the killing of so-called people who had alleged to have any connection with drugs in a very large scale. The sexual abuse, rape, and the abuse of women and children. Then there is whole questions of very deep forms of discrimination. In India, the caste system, the racial and other problem, and the discrimination of women. So Asia is a place where the state are failing to protect rights. All that the states do is to make declarations, sign declarations in the international forums. So the conventions are ratified. People go for meetings with the UN. Is some kind of a tamasha, some kind of a festivities, celebrations. You go and but when your rights, basic rights are violated, there is no place to go. And in this, particularly we have to note the legal systems, the courts, the police investigative systems, the prosecutor system, they have all seriously failed. In many countries, there are no independent courts at all. The executive is superior to the courts. So therefore, on any serious matter where the state violates the rights, there is nothing you can do. This includes not only personal rights, but also the grabbing of land. In many parts of Asia, one major problems that the people are faced with is grabbing of the lands of the poor for allegedly for various development purposes, but thus creating a huge poor, the impoverishment of the people, and which leads large scale to people fleeing from countries, the refugee problem, and the illegal migrant problem. People just go to other countries to get employment when they without visa, simply because they have been taken away from their forms of employment which they used to have. And also other aspects of environmental destruction, the destruction of animals, large scale destruction of animals. For none of these there are state solutions. State does not take responsibility. So where the only way to protect people's rights is people themselves coming forward and talking it out. And for this there is certain positive trend. Asia today has much, for the first time in the history of Asia, the levels of education of the ordinary people is very high. Still there are a lot of places where there should be improvement, but compared with the past, in every place there is a greater educated persons, not only formal education, but also through media, through communication systems, the use of telephones, interaction with other people in other countries because their relatives has gone into employment in other countries. So there is Asia is a highly continent that is moving. That movement itself creates knowledge. So there is a vast level of improvement of knowledge among the ordinary people. Therefore, there is they see injustice and they become part of their own injustice. So people who suffer injustice has a reason to develop solidarity, because that's the only thing that is left when the government are not taking responsibility. So if there is somebody being tortured at a police station, if the people talk for him, then something will happen. At least he will get medical treatment, some psychological treatment, and he will not have to go through fabricated cases by the police. It's the same with the extrajudicial killings and disappearances. Only if there is a lot of shout, the government will have to take notice, and the outside world will have to take notice, and in that process these violations can be reduced. So the power to talk loud and the desire and willingness to talk loud on behalf of each other, this is the last resort that the people have, and particularly in a place like Asia, where the state treats people more like enemies than the friends. The struggle is with all the time with the state on every issue. Is a kind of state that people should try to begin to understand what kind of state is this that is being evolved. What kind of responsibility do they bear to the people? But just crying and saying that state doesn't do anything is no way to survive. People have to fight for by themselves through solidarity. Of course, trying also to bring about political changes, which are very difficult to bring about when the whole justice systems have collapsed. The major issue that the international community should take regarding Asian countries is about the collapse or the absence of justice institutions. The policing institutions are primitive. Therefore, they resort to torture and all other kinds of violations and heavy corruption. State bureaucracies are in a mess. The political arrangement for maintaining governments are in a mess. The elections are held, but at the end, elections do not produce viable parliaments. The parliaments that defends the rights of people virtually do not exist in Asia. When people are elected, they make all kinds of arrangements with each other, with the various parties, to survive themselves, and then their own comforts, the increase of the various kinds of perks for the members of parliament or the ministers, and this is all the concern of elected people. The parliament that is supposed to be talking about policy, that is talking where the people can come and make representation, is lost. Very idea of the parliament is representation, but the people are not getting represented in parliaments. So today there is above all else, there is the time for solidarity, and this is not merely the problem of underdeveloped countries, but also it is the problem today even of most developed countries like United States itself. The last election in the United States showed the direction where things will move even from the hands of liberals into a far more powerful, rich lobbies whose main task will at the end will be to ignore whatever the rights of the people. And so once again we are at a time we must take responsibility for each other, or we must perish together. There is no option left.